In terms of quest for quality, this is really about living a quality life, having a quality career. If you always aim for quality in your life, you will almost always find success at some point in the longer term.
Welcome to Quest for Quality with Joe Higgins, a highly successful executive with the Whirlpool Corporation, whose career spanned over 3 decades as a leader with the world's largest appliance manufacturer in the world. Now in his retirement, Joe presents his decades of wisdom and experience in his Quest for Quality podcast and as a keynote speaker, seminar leader, and consultant.
Some of you may know our keynote speaker. You've probably seen this face around. I would tell you he's a legend in the industry, and it's great to see him back with us. Joe retired from Whirlpool in 2012 in a career that spanned 2 companies and 43 years in the appliance industry. For the past 2 years, Joe has been speaking at conventions, seminars, and sales meetings across America.
I've had the privilege and honor introducing some very famous speakers to you. Charlton Heston, Olympic gold medal winners John Neighbor and Mary Lou Retton, and last year, in August, Debbie Fields. They were all great speakers and showed you how a winning attitude brings success. But our next speaker is even better. Joe Higgins has walked in our shoes. Joe has been in our industry for 43 years working for both GE and Whirlpool corporations. Joe has held every job conceivable, from factory service, logistics, marketing, merchandising, small dealers, large dealers, key accounts, and contract. And if you can believe this, Joe had at one time 23 dealers in Las Vegas alone. Joe understands retail and wholesale, both at the local and the national level. Joe has been a friend to the independent dealer and to Brand Source his entire career. Joe's the only speaker in our history that we've invited to talk to us 2 years in a row. His insight on trends and our retail business have been spot on. I can't wait to see what is in Joe's crystal ball. Please help me in welcoming my friend and your friend, Joe Higgins.
Well, I was here a year ago on this stage, and I talked to you about the economy 2013. I made some predictions. I also gave you a brief history of the recession, how and why it started. This year, I'm going to talk to you about the economy 2014. But I'm going to start my presentation with a discussion around the next 10 years, the decade ahead, what that looks like for all of you in this room. I referenced it about a year ago. You see, I realize that you are not here with just a 1-year plan, that you have 5-year plans and 10-year plans. And I want to address that, and I want to leave you with confidence that when you leave Orlando, when you leave this convention, that you feel good about the growth that's coming in America and what it means to all of us in the longer term. Now, I'm not sure how many people in here have a gold presidential Rolex, but when we were at the president's meeting in Las Vegas, there was a watch boutique downstairs, and I was talking about Rolex, and I saw it, and I went in and I said, what does a gold presidential Rolex cost? And the lady looked me right in the eye and she said, $35,000. And I said, thank you, and I started to walk out, and she stopped me and she said, well, wait a minute, but for you today, $28,000. She cut the price $7,000, and I just turned my back on her. I went back to my room and I looked it up, and the price of a gold Rolex is $25,000. And that's steep in my mind, that's steep. And yet Rolex is up 27.1% this year. Warning to all of you out there that all these numbers and all these facts you've been listening to for the last 30 minutes or so, not important. Not important. Most Americans don't follow this stuff. Most Americans don't even understand this stuff. It's not the facts that are important. It's how we feel about the facts that are important. It's about how Americans feel about the facts. And how you feel about the facts drives behavior. So when your brother or your sister lose a job, it makes you feel a certain way. When your next door neighbor's house, that's a friend of yours, let's say, goes into foreclosure, it makes you feel a certain way and act a certain way. See, as human beings, we tend to think the worst of any situation and think that it's going to happen to us. And if some rep that calls on you gets downsized in an organizational change, it makes us feel a certain way. And as leaders of your organization, as all of you are leaders in here in some way, in some fashion, that your people are better salespeople and they're more motivated if they believe and if they feel like we're on a good course. Now, I used to do this for Whirlpool almost every phone call, every month at least. And we have an RSD in the room here, Jimmy Clark from Florida, and he coined the term Higgonomics. And I did this in the darkest days of the recession. Right, Jimmy? And we tried to keep our salespeople feeling good and feeling up and feeling positive and feeling motivated. And I'll tell you that that's what we all need to do. Because as you saw, the numbers are pretty good. The numbers point us to a way that says, hey, we're going to have a pretty good 2013. And beyond that, they look even better than what we were seeing. Okay? So keep that in mind. A great story. Anybody ever heard of Archer Rubinstein? Any musicians in here? Archer Rubinstein, considered to be the greatest pianist in the history of the human race. He played his last time in Pasadena when he was 89 years old. And a lady, this is how the story goes, a lady came up to him and said, Archer, she said, I saw you play tonight. You're a master. I would give my life to be able to play like you. And his answer was, I did. You heard that story? I did. If you want to be great, if you want to make it to the inner circle, you got to be willing to put in the effort. And people say to me when I talk about this, they say, well, why should I do this? You know, what's in it for me? Is it about the money? No. Is it about having a great job? Being a GM? Like David? No. Working hard and trying to be the best you can be, learning who you are inside, learning what potential you have. That's where life satisfaction comes. I can tell you from someone who's been 43 years in the business and ran a lot of different parts of Whirlpool and had a lot of the big leaders in my organization, still today a vice president of Whirlpool. Matter of fact, at one point in my career, the vice president of GE and the vice president of Whirlpool both came out of my organization. And I can tell you that one of the great satisfactions you have later on is whether or not you've learned who you are inside and you've lived up to the potential that you have. And I've just made the case for the fact that you all have equal talent. You all have a chance to be great. It's whether or not you take that chance. And I'll tell you that when you get to this point in your life where I'm at, I have the luxury of giving you this advice, that when you get here, that the job and the money weren't so important, it's who you are. I've learned over the years that it used to be about entertainment. I used to be able to come and tell a bunch of jokes and make people laugh, and that was great fun and everything. But I know in today's world that people want content. And they want a lot of content, and then they want something they can use immediately. So today, I have my action items. Every presentation I give has action items, and these are my action items, in case you forgot. Create great curb appeal. Go outside right now, look at your store and say, does my store look attractive? Curb appeal sells. Ask your real estate agent. Define your vision. Put it on the wall. Drive your people to your vision. Drive your people to what you have in your head. Make sure that it's not guesswork, that they know where you're at and what you're thinking about. Set up a meeting to create goals, 2 big goals in your organization that you can drive your team to that will make your business better over the next 12 months. Write up a customer service presentation. Make sure that you have something that every customer has in their hand when they walk out your store and go somewhere else. They can look at your presentation and say, wow, they do all these things and this guy doesn't, I'm going to buy from them. Because if you don't say it, it doesn't exist. And then, as an owner, obsessively train your team on customer service. And I say obsessively like Vaughn's. Make sure that everybody that comes to work for you loves to work in the business you're in, but wants to be a customer champion in their own right. Now I asked this group here, because I don't know, can you tell me what part of the chicken are nuggets? Can anybody tell me where the nuggets come from? Every part. That's a great answer. Actually, what I read is they scrape all the stuff off the rendering floor. They put it in that pink slime. They create nuggets. And those guys that work at McDonald's that create the food taste, they make it taste so good that we can't stop eating them. That's what's sad about it. There's your kids again. And then this one. This is the hard part, because for every one impression I give you today, for every one, you get 17 from fast food outlets. 17, they spend $1 billion a year on advertising targeted at your kids. If you drive down the average street in America, there are 20 fast food restaurants hearkening for you to come in and eat their food. I have no chance. You have no chance as parents. This is why this is so critical and why this is so important. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not just an issue. This is not just a small problem. This is a catastrophe that's happening in America. This is a disaster. And if we don't begin to make changes today, it'll overrun us in our healthcare system as well.
For more information about Quest for Quality and to learn more about inviting Joe Higgins to speak at your industry's conferences, association meetings, workshops, fundraisers, and other events, visit Q4QwithJoe.com and click Request Joe.